we've got this lovely garden. It's about 100 foot long. It's a proper suburban garden, and you don't get so many of them these days, which gives you room to actually garden in them.
Yeah. And the thing is, David, I look at it and look round, and David Stevens, the garden designer, I class him more of a plantsman, really, because we've had a quick look round, and some of the plants you've got, David, are fabulous. But of course, that designer can put them in the right place.
What is immediately striking is that we can stand at one end of the garden and look through. Your eye is always catching something new.
And I think with your own garden, which you can't always do with a client's garden, you can be slightly indulgent. And you can get plants that may be a bit difficult, but you know how to look after them. And you always go to the Red Cross area in garden centres, and I'm fatal for that. I always say you shouldn't go out and binge at garden centres, but we fall into that trap, don't we? It's always changing. There's always something to do, and that's half the fun of it.
Absolutely, I love working with shrubs, doing some pruning. Yeah, David, it's fabulous. So we're going to have a quick look.
Let's have a look. So we're up on the decking at the moment, which looks very nice. It's composite decking, it's never going to. You're not going to have a maintenance problem with this stuff. It's going to last probably a lifetime for gentlemen of our age, at least. So as we stumble down these steps, we're into the garden proper. Now, I mean, it's what are we talking about in terms of dimensions here, David?
Well, we're actually 100 foot long in old language, so just 33 metres, something like that in new language. And across the garden, it must be about 30 feet, something like that anyway. So it's a fairly long rectangular garden. And what I've tried to do is to give it a feeling of space and movement. So you actually walk from place to place. And I think Johnny was saying, that execorder down there, you wonder what's around the corner, yeah? Exactly. And that's half the secret, and that actually makes the garden feel larger than it actually is, because you're playing with space. Get the spaces right, and then the plants bring that alive and give you that third dimension and all those things. But a garden, you're saying, Rod, a garden is a journey. Old path that runs down. Now that was probably put in when the house was built in the 1930s. Now a few years ago we'd have skipped that, but I thought, well, no, it's part of the history of the place. A, it would be a big job to dig it and put it into skips. B, it's actually not very environmentally friendly. The carbon footprint of doing that, and then you'd have to lay something else. So what's the point? Use that and base the design around that, and take all your cues from it and build it in.
Well, there's nothing wrong with it, is there? It's a perfectly decent concrete.
It is.
And what's nice about it is that the person who laid it has got a bit of imagination, because it meanders through the garden.
It does.
It's not a straight line.
It takes you on that journey.
And of course, that gives you a border on the other side with different depths, isn't it? Yeah. So you've got potential there.
Exactly. Defines the border, and also if you've got plants that romp about a bit, keeps them in check as well. And there's a few. Rosie Hardy, bless her, always says, I said, some of these plants are pretty invasive. No, she said, they're enthusiastic.
Yes, like Lysomachia. I mean,
exactly.
Look at that. I mean, that's extraordinary.
Lysomachia firecracker. And I planted that with the golden smoke bush there, which is lovely. And again, with that golden carex, the two colours work really well together. Yeah.
A lot of gardens nowadays, particularly modern properties, are much smaller, and so it's really important to talk about the scale as you've talked about, but also using every potential piece of space. So low-growing plants, the medium-growing shrubs, and then this canopy that you've got around your garden of these tall trees and some smaller trees as well. That beautiful magnolia, which is just magnificent, and forms a great big canopy under which you grow all of these other
that's
plants.
right. So the plants in the garden are creating their own microclimate underneath it. So basically, I've got woodland planting underneath the magnolia. Up at this part of the garden, it's in full sun. It's south facing, so you're using things like cistus, which love the sun, and most of this planting will do just that. So you're tuning your plants to the situation that they're in, and that gives the garden greater interest, because if you like, you move from climatic zone to climatic different zone again, and that gives you more opportunity.
And the other thing that I think I notice certainly is the size of your borders, and I know it's something you've always said, David, is make your borders big enough to actually be able to do something with. The mistake so many gardeners, particularly as I did when I started, is you put these little borders around the edge of the garden, and so you end up with a nice big lawn, but not much else of any interest.
And the problem is that, most garden owners or gardeners go to a nursery or a garden centre and they see the plants, they're small. They don't realise how big things get.
Yeah.
I mean, a medium-sized shrub's going to grow 2 to 3 metres across and the same high. Now, that means you've got to have a border 2.5 metres or 3 metres. So you need that space to grow your plants in. Good gardeners' gardens, the lawns get smaller and the borders get bigger. And in the end, the lawns are just paths going through the borders.
Yes, exactly that.
I always like a bit of grass, though. I really do.
Yeah, well, you've got a lawn here, and I mean, you've got this massive border, which is a beautifully curved area to one side of the garden, and then you've got this path down the other side with borders to the other side of the path, but you've left room for a lawn. It's not massive, and it's not a bowling green, but it's beautifully practical, and it looks great. Something else, you've got benches all over the place, somewhere to sit and enjoy your garden.
In fact, there are 5 separate sitting areas in the garden. We've got the deck, obviously, as you come out from the house. You come down the steps and there's a little tucked in sitting area beside my sister's called Barrientus, which is just about to come into flower. And across the other side, diagonally, we've got a bench there that looks back across a different view. So each sitting area has a different view. Some are in shade, some are in sun, and of course the sun and shade swing around the garden throughout the day. So you don't have to sit in the sun or the shade. There's always somewhere to sit, and that sets up a different view as well.
This is a lovely area. We're just getting to a lovely area now, going past a great... Come on, David, tell us about this. Wolf and I, is it?
Well, it's a Wolf and I variety, and it's called Humpty Dumpty. And you can see it's that sort of Humpty Dumpty shape to it, isn't it? It's an absolute beauty, it really is.
Now we're getting to an area, David, which is quite shaded, because I think, isn't this the reason you bought the house?
Yes, it is, yes. It is a beautiful magnolia. It's just Silangiana. I say just, but Silangiana is a beautiful plant. And I had my eye on it, Pauline did as well, had my eye on this house, and, I actually bought the magnolia.
Yeah.
The magnolia cost me £365,000, and the house came free with it. So I thought that was a good deal, actually.
But it's given you a certain amount of shade, and underneath you've got rhododendrons.
Yes,
and they are looking splendid. Well, it's a mixture, isn't it? Rhodies, your hellebores as well.
They're good shape. A lot of different brunneras, and a lot of the brunneras have got a lovely light pale leaf, and that lightens the area, because the magnolia is not in leaf quite yet. It's just coming into leaf. But when it is in leaf, that's really quite a dark area underneath it. You need plants that are going to reflect light and bringing, it just lightens it up nicely. I've got my water bowl in the middle.
I was just going to say, you've got right in the middle of that, you've got a man-made feature, which is it's a certain kind of steel. This, isn't it?
Corten steel, which is really rusty steel. That's basically what it is. Now I've got my big hostas just bursting out now, and because the bowl is there, all the blackbirds come down and drink there. There is not a slug or a snail on those hostas ever. There are no holes that they'll go right the way through until September, October without any damage on them whatsoever. And that, if you like, is biological control, because you're encouraging the birds to come in. The birds then drink, and then they feed on any slugs or whatever that may be underneath. So it's a good thing to do.
Now then, there's a different path.
Yes.
And I think this one, it was when you were creating the garden, this is all the stuff you dug up.
Well, you could say it's homegrown. Because, again, when we moved in, it looked half decent, the garden. It looked fine. But then, I put a fork in, bang. Then I put a spade, I put in half a spit, and that was it. And I've dug all of this out of the garden, and down at the bottom in our work area down there's loads more stone as well. But I didn't skip it. We've used it and upcycled it. Yeah. And because I've laid it, basically it's a membrane underneath it, but that's it. I've not bedded it on cement or mortar. And then plants will grow in the cracks, and little thymes and all sorts of things grow in there. And it comes alive. That's the main thing.
Right, well, look, we've just had a little wander through this. And in fact, if we go down to the bottom, and you're not afraid of Spanish bluebells, I notice,
No,
David.
Again,
they worry me because they just get everywhere.
They are invasive, but you can take them out and,
Yeah.
What's that? These are Spanish bluebells.
Yeah,
aren't
Spanish,
they?
yeah.
But they're a lovely colour. I mean, and like an edging like that, they take your eye around the curve as well, which is lovely.
Absolutely.
So we've come down to the bottom of the garden, and this is the other test, really, of a well-planned garden, because now you've got a view going back up to the house, looking through the magnolia tree and all
you look
shrubs.
under it. The magnolia almost acts as a frame for the view. I always say, if I'm teaching students, I always say, your primary view, perhaps from the house, is important. But if you go down the garden and look back, your secondary view must be just as good. There's no point in looking at a corrugated iron shed on next door. So frame your views, work out where you're going to sit in the various sitting area, where you can just see one of the benches up there, which looks in a different direction across the garden. But I love this in the evening. You can come down here in the summer, look back up the garden, and it's lovely. The robins will be out singing, and absolutely lovely. But we're in the woodland here. So there's a rhodo there, we've got azaleas there, a euphorbia robii, which is in deep shade, our Cuba japonica, shade again.
And this magnificent magnolia tree, where you've got the sort of gnarled look of these branches coming out, creates a fantastic framework.
It's what I call an Arthur Rackham tree. And if anyone knows about their books and artists, they know about Arthur Rackham. He drew these wonderful dark woodland scenes with these trees with gnarly bark and twisted habits and forms to them. Beautiful. And this one, you've got to duck and dive a bit to get under the big branches, but that's half the charm of the thing, really.
But and I think you put your finger on it when you said you bought this house for the tree, because the tree cost you $365,000. The house came free because it's a feature, and you need a feature in your garden of some description.
And the nice thing about it is that it's actually offset. So if it's right in the middle, it would have been totally different. But having it to one side, actually, almost the garden pivots around it, and that's quite important in visual terms as well. That was pure luck that was there. I did nothing to do with me. But if you're thinking of planting a tree, don't just put it in the obvious place.
Yes.
Have a think about it, position it so that it can be a pivot, or it can be a focal point that leads you across the space rather than being static in the middle of it.
Well, there we are. I mean, in terms of size, this is not untypical of a lot of gardens. Long, relatively narrow.
That's it.
But you don't get that feeling because of the way you've planted it and planned it, and you've got a journey through the garden.
Exactly. It's the shapes that are important, and that does take you on a voyage, really.
So, John, to finish off, it's just nice to come and look around a garden like this, and David talks to us a lot about design, but now we can see how he's done it.
Yes, but always remember that your back garden is your little bit of England, and you can have it how you want it, really, can't you, David?
Absolutely.
But it is worth, look at the plants, check how big they grow.
What you always say, check
the
soil.
soil is one of the most important things first, because you can waste a lot of money.
It's such a pleasure to have a look around and just see just see everything you say put into practice, really. I think that's the main lesson for me.
One of the things, Rod, is we're in April.
Yeah.
And you want to see it in May.
But this will change all year, won't it,
That's
David?
the thing,
Exactly.
Okay, I mean, at the moment, it's in its growth period, really.
Yeah.
And you can see soil. Come June, there won't be any soil visible anywhere. And that's the thing. I mean, don't be afraid of plants. Don't be afraid to have your big borders, which Rod said, which is absolutely right. But the main thing is, it gives you so much enjoyment at all those different times of the year. Even in the winter, when you can see the bones of the garden, it looks fabulous. And that's what it's all about. It really is.
It is.
Well, there we are. Thank you very much indeed, David. It's been a treat, and I think probably now it's lunchtime, isn't it?
It is. Well, it's been a pleasure having you two chaps here as well. You know, and I can always ask John technical gardening questions because I don't know them all.